And good morning and good evening to the people connected and in the world that I hope are very numerous, and they are attending this conference with interest. Well, here is the outline of my presentation. I will recall something about the energy supply and how is it interconnected with the development in the world. Then some basic principles concerning thermodynamics, as Professor Brucey mentioned, because at the end we have to recall some science in order to understand what is going on. And mainly to determine that what we need is not energy, but we need free energy. And then I will discuss very briefly the energy sources we have on Earth, including the fossil fuels and the problems that were touched by Professor Del Valls concerning the CO2 issue. And well, coming to the actual policy in the world, Professor Sumini mentioned the policy in Germany. I will touch very briefly the phase out and the outlook in Germany concerning the energy policy. I will recall mainly only to mention again, but it's unnecessary because was mentioned by the other speakers before concerning the 2020 policy of the European Commission. And then come to some concluding remarks. But let me dedicate this presentation to Charles David Keeling, who was the first person to measure the content of the CO2 in the atmosphere. And this is a very important issue that I hope it will become clear after the presentation of Professor Del Valls and my presentation, that this is one issue that we cannot avoid when we are we are talking about the energy. We see here in the, I think I can use this, I don't know if you see very clearly, but here you see the evolution of since 4,000 years, and you see the intervention of the human intervention more or less by the middle of the 18th century. And what do you see in the small inlet in the picture is the measurement of Keeling in Mauna Loa since the 60s. But well, I don't need, after all the speakers, to say something about the importance of energy in our daily life. I would say for our even survival, that means we need energy. We need energy for education, we need energy in order to have heating in our houses. It's a very important issue. And we have to have a source that is secure. We know now that should be environmentally friendly, based on efficiency, because it's a limited resource, and this is the reason why we have to say, as Professor Giacomelli mentioned, to put in the chandeliers, to put efficient lamps. And also important, I think, is it should be affordable for the population, because well, somebody has to pay for this. And here it's so important that many scientists in the world have invented indexes in order to link the human development to the energy consumed. And I learned from Professor Brucey that one way to read this graphic is to say that there are people in the world that need the energy, they are here, and there are people in the world that can save energy because they are spending too much energy in their life. For instance, I put here the power that is at disposal of every person in Italy, and the extreme case of Bahrain. I didn't even found I didn't put the feature for Qatar, which is even higher. This is the power at the disposal of the population in those countries. But roughly, half of the population are below 1 kilowatt per capita. And this includes, in this Human Development Index, is more than money. That means there is included the life expectancy, the education, but also the gross domestic product, but also money is involved. But as Professor Zumbini mentioned, that means how many Einstein are we losing because we don't have access, or was Del Valls, I don't remember who mentioned this. How many Einstein are we losing because we don't have access to energy? But it's real energy we are talking about. Well, in order to understand this issue, we have to recall some principles very briefly, and don't be afraid about the formulas, because I use the formula only to remind me something, some concept, but the concepts are important for the discussion today. And the thermodynamics is the science behind all this energy. And the first principle of the thermodynamic is a very important principle, but at the end, well, it said that we are converting energy, that the quantity of energy in the world is constant. That means we can only convert one type of energy to the other. And think about an ideal pendulum without friction, with a punctual mass or something like this, which is an ideal conception. What Einstein called a Gedanken experiment. That means it's something that we can't realize in the real world. That means the pendulum is converting potential energy in kinetic energy permanently. But this is the ideal world, and this is not in the real world. And it was Sadi Carnot in 1924 who formulated the first ideas concerning the thermodynamics, and it was Clausius in 1965 who formulated the second principle. That means in the ideal world, the pendulum keeps moving without rest. But in the real world, something gets lost. And in order to account mathematically for this part that gets lost, Clausius defined the entropy, which is here represented by the quantity of energy or heat that we add to the system at the temperature of the system. And the formulation of the second principle is simply say that this quantity has to increase, always is increasing. But this is for an isolated system. And the question now that I want to introduce is, can we apply this to the Earth as a thermodynamic system? Well, the first thing to note is that the Earth is, by definition, a closed system. There is also open system. An open system is exchanging energy and matter with the rest of the universe, whatever it is. This is a matter of definition, because we have to define the limits of our system. We will see some definitions in the case of Earth. But the first thing to note is that the Earth is not an isolated system. That means it's not a system that is not exchanging energy or matter with the rest of the environment. It's a system that is exchanging essentially no matter. Okay, well, we can say some meteorites, or how do you call meteorites, or something like this, or the cosmic rays. I think Professor Giacomelli mentioned this. But those are contributions that we can neglect. The Earth is a non-equilibrium system because it exchanges energy with the universe, essentially with the sun, but also with the moon, as we will see. And for this, we have to apply the non-equilibrium thermodynamics. And for this, it's better to speak about power and not about energy, but this is not important. That means we have two contributions to the entropy. One is the contribution internal to the system, and then a net exchange of entropy in the borders of the system that we have to define. And that the Earth is not in equilibrium, in a thermodynamic equilibrium, we can see, for instance, for the water vapor. Because how it is possible that a gas represented by the atmosphere, is in contact with an enormous amount of water, but it's not in saturation. The thermodynamic equilibrium requires that at a certain moment there will be an equilibrium, but not. And I wrote the word comfort here because what we define as comfort is 55% of humidity content in the atmosphere. But the essential thing for our discussion is there is no saturation. And also the 21% of molecular oxygen. I don't know if it is good defined. Professor Bruce will correct me, but I think it's 21% molecular oxygen. And if you measure with a gas determination device, you measure 21% permanently. And it's constant. But it's constant not because of equilibrium. This is a lively exchange between all the living organisms, the earth crust, which is oxidizing permanently, with an exchange with the oceans, and this is permanently in a dynamic state. And then we can say that what we call equilibrium is not equilibrium, but is a steady state. And this is in order to and we can say that the Earth is, has some constant, because the temperature is essentially constant. Of course, we have to consider an average of the whole Earth. We have to consider also, or not consider, the greenhouse effect, that the temperature is increasing or decreasing. I think we are connected with Skype, because your friends are calling. Also, the internal energy and the entropy are constant, and as we will see, I hope it will become clear, also is constant the free energy. And what is the free energy? Well, this was defined by, the theoretical interpretation was Boltzmann, essentially, who gave that. That means there is always something that gets lost. That means the internal energy of a system, we have, if we intend to use the internal energy of a system, we have to pay for this. And we have to pay for this what we call, in scientific terms, the so-called entropic tax. And this is defined mathematically by the multiplying the temperature by entropy, but this is something that, because the audience is not, or presumably have not scientific formation, I put something, an example of the daily life. The internal energy, you can imagine, is the money that you have in the bank. And the entropic tax is the bank fees that you have to pay in order to get it out. This is in order to have an example of the daily life of the people. It's very easy to calculate the entropy if we define properly the limits of the system. For instance, one system is, we can consider the Earth, the Sun, which is emitting permanently a certain amount of power to the Earth and the rest of the space, of course. And we will calculate later on how much it is. And if we consider that the average outer atmosphere temperature is more or less, and we express this in Kelvin because, well, this is in thermodynamics is the better unit for the temperature. And we consider that the energy is constant in the Earth. That means the energy that is coming to the Earth is the same as is coming out of the Earth. Then we can simply calculate the amount of entropy exchanged by the Sun and the Earth, and we can as the ratio between the both temperature, that is exactly 5,760 degree Kelvin, and divided by 255 is 20 times. What does it mean? It means that the Earth is exporting 20 times the entropy that the Earth received from the Sun. That means that for every high energetic photon that the sun is emitting to the Earth and the Earth is receiving, the Earth is re-emitting 20 photons with a lower energy and a higher, remember this, and a higher wavelength. Remember this because this is important also for the greenhouse effect. That means it's very easy to calculate. But how much solar energy? And I keep speaking about the energy, but we will pass to the free energy. And then in order to calculate this, it's very simple because we can measure very accurately the so-called solar constant, which is the amount of the incoming solar electromagnetic radiation, photons essentially, per unit area. But this is on the top of the atmosphere. This is exactly 1,366 watt per square meter. And as we know that the energy coming in is the same energy as coming out, and I don't go through all the mathematics, we have to consider the so-called albedo, and the albedo is the relationship of between the energy or the radiation coming in and the radiation coming out, and I can say to you that the 0.7 is reflecting the fact that our clouds are re-emitting, are reflecting the energy, but more or less 30%. And here you see a factor also, 95.95, which is a thermodynamic factor. We cannot go through all the mathematics concerning this, but believe me that there are essential principles avoiding that we can use all the energy from the sun. But still it's a lot. It's 120,000 terawatt if you consider that the radiation of the Earth from the sun is intercepting 1/10 of the radius of the Earth, and then this amount is distributed on the surface of the Earth. This is the factor 4 that you have here. It means in reality is 1/4. If we compare with the amount of power that we are using, this I think is more or less 2008 or something like this, it's only 17 terawatt. It means it's an enormous amount of energy. But I want to make a digression concerning the energy source and the gradients, and ask to ourselves how many are the sources of free energy that we have at our disposal on Earth. Well, we discussed one important source, the dominant source, which is the solar radiation, which is associated with the spatial and temporal variation. I mean, well, the Earth is moving, Professor Giacomelli, 20 kilometers per second? 30 kilometers per second, imagine, around the sun, and then it's rotating. And this combination of the two movements is causing temporal variation, which are related to the diurnal illumination of the Earth, and also the seasonal variation of the energy arriving to the, and this is generating gradients. And gradients are very important in the thermodynamic, and you have to spend energy in order to maintain gradients. One part of the solar energy is used photochemically and with an enormous efficiency, because in the evolution of the Earth, how many billions of years, 15 billions of years or something like this, plants learn how to use how many? Five. The universe is 15, the Earth is 5. Sorry. The plants learn how to use this incident solar radiation, and because the solar radiation contains wavelengths can be used by the plant to generate what we call chemical free energy. But we have other sources at our disposal. For instance, the gravitational forces exerted by the sun and the moon. These provide some additional free energy, mostly, as we know, in the ocean for the tidal movement. No? And then we have the core heating, which is, well, the radioactive decay. Here, also brief digression there, because the people, one criticism concerning the nuclear energy is something that the human beings created on the Earth and didn't exist before. This is not true, because inside the Earth we have two elements. The first element and most important is uranium, and all the daughters that is decaying and heating the interior of the Earth. And the second one is potassium 40. Potassium?
Potassium 40.
Yeah, potassium 40. And then we have an additional source, which is the slow crystallization of the core, which is a phase change, and there is a latent heat there also to our disposal. And the secular cooling, that means from the interior, is coming to the Earth crust.
Maybe also thorium.
Maybe also thorium, yes.
Actually, 1/2 of the heat irradiated by photon is due to radioactive.
Exactly. But well, I will do some calculation what the magnitudes here. And we have the fossil fuels that was mentioned by Professor Solini. And the fossil fuels, we have two types of fossil fuel. One is the traditional fossil fuels that Professor Melvals mentioned concerning oil, coal, and natural gas producing CO2, and this will be part of my presentation today. And we have also thorium and uranium, which are other kind of... but before coming to this, let me mention something that I took from a paper, a very recent paper, from Axel Kleidon. He's a colleague working in Jena in Germany. And the interconnections that we have on Earth. That means we have the radiative exchange with the sun. That means energy coming into the Earth from the suns. But we are using part of this free energy in order to deplete gradients. That means we have the equator and we have the poles. In the equator, I don't know, the mean temperature probably is 30 degrees centigrade. In the poles, we have minus 15. I mean, this is an enormous amount of difference in the temperature, and this is moving the atmosphere in order to deplete this gradient, because at the end we talk about the thermodynamic equilibrium, and all the tendency is to the thermodynamic equilibrium. But also we have a gradient of matter, and then the chemical potential and the humidity and so on. And these are connected. That means we are using the radioactive I don't know how to pronounce properly in English, exchange with the space, that is moving the atmosphere, that is moving also other processes. For instance, is taking water from the oceans, evaporating water from the oceans and elevating to, and then this water is coming back, and then when we are talking about the hydro energy, we are talking essentially to something that is also connected with the sun energy. Well, I put here an example concerning the vegetation that influences the physical appearance and the function of land. For instance, and I mentioned before that the chemical composition of the atmosphere is changed, or is modified, or is influenced by the exchanges gases with all the living organisms, in particular with the vegetation. That means we all know that during the day the vegetation is exhaling oxygen and inhaling CO2, and converting this to permanent structures. That means all the trees that are growing and so on is the conversion of CO2 in the permanent structure. And then hydrological function and turbulent characteristics, that means water absorption by the roots, and also is interacting with the wind, because there is a wind canopy interaction. And then it's changing the radiative, I don't know how to pronounce it, properties called albedo. That means if we put more absorbing surface, the dark green color of the canopy is absorbing more light. That means we are changing these properties. And also something that we have to learn in Italy, also the landslide are affected by the vegetation in a positive way. No? That means the roots add strength to the soil, and also, believe it or not, the canopy can reduce the peak rainfall. That means diminishing the erosion, something that we don't think about. Well, here I put again some, in order to come back to Carnot and efficiency, and how simply is to calculate based on the concept of entropy the Carnot efficiency. And as we know, this is based on the difference, or this is depending on the difference of the temperature. And this is putting a limit to the amount of energy that we can use. And this is a limit that we cannot pass. The same, this is an isolated system, the same we can do with an open system, and there is always a power in, a power that is doing something. For instance, is evaporating water of the oceans and converting this to rain that is transported also to the mainland. But always there are dissipations. And I mentioned already that to maintain one gradient, we have to deplete another. This is, nothing is for free. Free energy, we call free energy, but it's not for free. And then we come back to the 120,000 terawatts that is provided, the power provided by the sun. And the problem is, one of the problems is that this is on the top of the atmosphere. If we are able to catch this energy with 100% efficient machine in the top of the atmosphere. But even in this case, we cannot use all this amount of energy, because this is coming with different wavelengths. And in the ultraviolet, this energy we can use only to photodissociation and ionization. This is responsible for instance, to the production of the ozone layer in the ozone layer. Yes, I think it's ozone layer, no? Luigi? It's ozone layer, correct? And this is responsible for the production of the ozone. Then we have the infrared that is providing mainly rotational vibrational modes, and this is only dissipating. That means it's only heat generation. By the way, if we do the same calculation as we did with the top of the atmosphere, but in this case considering the temperature of the surface of the Earth, we will arrive to the same conclusion, that one high energetic photon coming from the sun is converted to 20, more or less, 20 photons that are in this range. That means is the energy of the photon incoming divided by 20. And then this is responsible for the greenhouse effect, because what I marked here is the absorption bands, for instance, for the CO2. I mean, it's absorbing, and we are not re-emitting this heat to the space. And this is very important. By the way, the photosynthesis is working in the visible range, and I put here the range where the photovoltaic panels are. I don't have the time, and I think this is not the floor in order to discuss this type of things, but there are some theories behind this. concerning non-equilibrium thermodynamic. I mentioned here in this context Prigogine, who was the leader in the field. And if you do all the calculations, considering the efficiency, considering the losses that you have, those are the numbers that are coming from this type of calculation. We don't have any more, and those are thermodynamic limits. Of course, well, you can say those are models with some approximation and so on. But this is the amount of energy that we can use from the 120,000 terawatt that are coming from the sun. Part of this irradiation, part of this irradiation is producing photosynthesis and free energy, chemical free energy, producing carbohydrate that we can consume. Believe it or not, the gravitational field, which one might consider is a very important, is only 5 terawatts. And then we have the geothermal amount of free energy at our disposal, and it's only 40 terawatts, for a total of 6,425 terawatt approximately. If we compare with the 17 terawatt, it still is a lot, but it's not more than 120,000 that we said. And also the interaction, I recall these machines that are interconnected, the atmosphere with the oceans and so on. That means if we do the calculation how we are today using this free energy, we are using 1,000 terawatt more or less for the large scale atmospheric circulation. Then one part is transferred to the waves and the winds to produce the wave and the winds. That means the energy of the winds, the wind energy, the aeolic energy is not such a big source of free energy, but this should be for another conference. For the water cycle, which is an important one, and because we have to evaporate water from the oceans, we are using currently 560 terawatt. And well, here this is desalination of seawater that is also. If we compare this with the human appropriation of the net primary production, and I mentioned this as HANPP because this is if you put this in Google or another, you will find what it is. It's the use, what we are using from the photosynthetic or the photosynthesis of producing in the earth. That means what we are consuming as grains or whatever it is, and what we are feeding to this fish stock and so on. And if we add the 17 terawatt, God bless you. If we compare with the 17 terawatt, which are not in these 17 terawatts, are not included the what we are using as energy, because this is only for the heating, industrial activities, transportation. I don't know if I forgot some other important use of this. Those are the 17 terawatt, but we are using more. That means, as a matter of fact, what we are using is comparable, for instance, to the geothermal. That means the influence of the human beings on the earth is very, very important. In another version of this presentation here would come fossil fuels. What is the problem with the fossil fuel? Because the fossil fuels are not interfering with the other processes on Earth. That means it's not interfering with the large-scale atmospheric circulation or the transfer of energy to the oceans or winds. What is the problem? And the problem is, and I won't insist on this, the problem is the CO2. How big is the problem? Because most of the people are linking CO2 and greenhouse effect and then increase of temperature. I did a small calculation because thanks killing we measure from more or less 66. I don't know if he started before, but in any case I use the period of the 40 years period from 66 to 2005. How much carbon did we put, and forget about the CO2, now I am speaking about the carbon cycle because this is important. Then you can convert to CO2, which is a gas and so on, but it's the carbon cycle which is important. How much carbon had we put into the atmosphere through burning of fossil fuel, but other human activities? And other human activities I put the most important, which is the cement manufacturing. Well, this is very easy to calculate because you need to go to the internet and these numbers are everywhere. For instance, in the site of the BP.
British Petroleum.
British Petroleum. No? But you can use other sources. And then if you add these numbers, you come to the conclusion that in 40 years we put 225 billion tons of carbon into the atmosphere. But the problem is that we can calculate also how much we have, because thanks to the measurements of killing, we know that we had an increase from 320 to 383 or something like this. That means you can calculate how much you add, and believe me, the number that is coming is more or less 130 millions. That means that roughly 43% of the released carbon is missing. And this is both good news and bad news. It is good news because not all the carbon is released, all the carbon we release or we put into the atmosphere remains in the atmosphere. But the bad news is what did it went? And then we have only two possibilities. One are the oceans and the second is the vegetation. And then, well, we have the so-called CO2 fertilization. That means if you give to the plants more CO2, you increase
Photosynthesis.
the photosynthesis. That means you can, they will develop better. But the problem is that not all will develop in the same way. That means there will be plants that are increasing something that you can neglect, and there are plants that is doing 40, 30, 50% better, or 100% better, depending on the CO2. That means we are changing through the CO2 that we are putting in the atmosphere. We are changing our flora. But the problem is also that animals are feeding on these plants. That means through the change of the flora, we are also changing the fauna. Well, I don't continue with this, but this is one of the problems that we have, and this goes beyond the increase of the temperature. And then one part is for sure went to the oceans, and as Professor Del Valls mentioned, increasing the pH means, well, I don't go to the details, but believe me that for instance in Australia in the coral barrier there is the phenomenon, and the people are studying very intensively this, the coral bleaching. That means the corals are losing all the colors. You see that the fossil fuels are not interfering with the processes on Earth, but they are producing this type of problem, going beyond the increase of the temperature and the greenhouse effect. But there are other fossil fuels, not the nuclear fossil fuels, uranium and thorium. And then I come to the, I will come back to this, but now we come to the actuality of the, because of Fukushima, as Professor Sumini explained very well, Germany decided to phase out nuclear energy. I can tell you, those are official data. This is the start of moratorium. That means when the German closed 8 of the 17 reactors working in Germany, with the goal to increase the renewables. But for the moment, you cannot go, say, like this with the fingers, and the renewables will be there. For the moment, the net result of the moratorium of nuclear energy, the 8 reactors, because at the end they will close definitely in 2022, is that from this point, Germany has converted from a net exporting country to a net importing country. And what Germany is importing is mainly nuclear from France. And the idea is that the only possibility to cover what they will, because as Professor Sumini mentioned, because of the standard of living, because of the increase of the population, we need more energy. And then the only possibility for Germany is to use more coal, with the problem of the CO2 and the conflict with the policies of the European community. But there is more than this, because there is the problem of energy storage. And why we need this energy storage? Because all the renewables are intermittent, means are not producing. Solar is producing during the day, the wind is not blowing every hour of the day, and not blowing everywhere in the country. And this is one problem that they have to solve. But there is more than this. The other problem is that you put mainly these wind farms are put in the northern ocean or sea, and there Germany is consuming electricity in the south, where is the industrial part of the country. That means mainly the Bavaria and Baden-Württemberg. And then we have to transmit this. Then we have, they are already putting, according to the this transmission system operators in Germany, they are putting so much stress to the net that well, they don't know if they will have cuttings of energy during the winter. Wait and see, but probably will be something coming in the next winter. And last but not least, also they are modifying the landscape. Probably you know that I said we have, because I am living there, we have the administration now is a green administration in Baden-Württemberg, and then they close 2 of the 4 reactors at Baden-Württemberg in the territory of Baden-Württemberg were functioning. And then they said, well, we will put more wind in the Black Forest. And imagine how this will modify the landscape. Well, I don't continue with this.
They are delusion, they say so. You know something about windmills.
And very briefly, because well, here I put again this picture, because there is room for energy saving, mainly in building and transport, better isolated and better constructed. And well, the European Commission is also recommending the nuclear as a CO2-free technology in the energy mix. I would say that my concluding remarks, I put something there, but in any case, in my opinion, the 2 important things is that we need better models and I do a citation of Einstein, who said that nothing more practical than a good theory. It means we have to modelize, because if we put one windmill in a certain part of the country, probably the influence on the whole atmosphere can be neglected. But if we start to put an enormous amount of windmills, well, that means we are depleting one gradient and we don't know the consequence. In any case, I mentioned here, probably is this I'm receiving if we continue to put and absorbing this amount of energy and taking this amount of energy from the whole atmospheric circulation, this will cause probably some problems. And there are models I mentioned here, we don't have the time, and this is something that is more specialized, that if we put such an amount of windmills in order to cover only 1/3 of the world needs of energy needs, we will have a problem that is equivalent to double the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. That means better models in order to see what will be the impact of this. There is a lot of room for the renewables, mainly sun. So, for instance, well, somebody mentioned the land use. I think it was you, Professor Sumini, concerning, imagine the Amazon converted to agriculture. That means this is something that probably will have an enormous impact on the climate and on the atmosphere. But we can do green the greening of the desert. And there also, as a CO2 technology, we can use, for instance, nuclear energy in order to do desalination of the seawater, in order to irrigate the portions of the there is a Wild Desert Tech project also in order to use surface in the Sahara Desert in order to produce also solar energy and so on. There is room for other things, but I think that the previous policy in Germany, also Mrs. Merkel was the prime minister at that time, was the better one. That means use the nuclear energy as a bridge energy towards the renewables, because we need still some some research and development. Thank you very much to to Professor Brusi for inviting me and all the organization, and many thanks to other colleagues for the discussion that we had during the intervals in order to fix these ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Toscano, for your very nice approach to the possible damages our Earth, our planet can suffer due to the fact that we are not considering in the right way all the equilibrium problems we have in our planet. So now I think the floor is given to Ozeren, to engineer Ozeren Ulku, coming from Istanbul, Turkey, and she will explain to us how is the situation of energy and environment in Turkey. Consider that it is not usual for us to know, to have news about Turkey. So this is a good opportunity to understand something.
Exactly.
First of all, thank you very much for this very efficient organization to Professor Luigi Brusi and Andrea Zanfini, and for all the other people in the organization. I'm very... Oh. Now at the end of the day, I know that everybody is very tired, and I'll do my best not to make you more tired. So I'll start my presentation. Today I will talk about energy and environmental program in Turkey. As we all know, while economical and social development is supported by sustainable development, targets are to protect the natural resources and minimize the human impacts on environment. Air quality, water pollution, solids and hazardous waste production, soil losses, deforestation, climate change and loss of biodiversity do not have political boundaries and pose vital threat on health, productivity of humans. Is it fine?
Okay.
It's okay. Great. Technical problems on me. Great. Productivity on human and all living organisms. Therefore, it's very critical to manage environmental problems, for sure. Being sustainable means meeting today's requirements by not endangering future generation capacities to meet their needs. Energy has very strategic importance for countries' developments and their policies. Increasing energy costs, growing sensitivity against the global warming and climate change, dependency to fossil fuel that's exhaustive tendency in the near future has increased the concerns over the energy supply assurance. Results of increasing population of the world, industrialization, urbanization and globalization has drawn world attention on energy, environment and sustainability. According to IEA's projections, as a result of existing energy policies and energy supply preferences, primary energy demand of the world will increase by 40% until 2030. So, with such an introduction, I'll give some energy figures for the world. But before my presentation, many presenters has already gives similar figures, so I'll go through very fast on this. According to 2010 BP Statistical World Review of Energy, primary energy consumption, according to International Energy Agency, is 12.3 billion TP. And having approximately 100 million TP energy consumption, Turkey has the 24th highest rate in the world. As we look at the distribution of primary energy consumption according to the resources, we see that fossil fuels takes 90% of the all energy consumption. And with 6.6%, we have hydro and other renewable energy consumption values. With 5.5%, we have nuclear power, and that's if we compare with the progress of the composition of the energy usage of the world between 1973 to 2008, we see that fossil fuels usage was 75% and renewables was approximately 13% and nuclear was 21%. And if you look at 2008, we see that there is a reduction for the fossil fuels consumption, approximately 8%, and renewables we have an increase approximately 5%, and nuclear we have a decreased rate, and we have approximately 14% of power production from the nuclear power. And according to the BP Statistical World Review of Energy, we have remaining lifetime of fossil fuels like 42 years for petroleum, 122 years for coal, and 60 years for natural gas. And again, if you look at some figures from Turkey, we have nearly 73 million people with national income for the 2009 figures 680 billion US dollars, and we have national contribution to national income for the sectors for agriculture 8%, industry 23%, trade and service 69%. And according to Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources database, energy demand increase rate for primary energy has been observed as 4.3%, that's equivalent to 3 times more than world's average rate between 1990 to 2008. Turkey has the maximum energy demand increase rate among OECD countries for the last 10-year period. Likewise, Turkey has the second large economy after China by having highest demand increase rate for electricity and natural gas since 2000. And if you look at the composition of the energy consumption sources, we see that in Turkey we have almost 90% usage of fossil fuels. And if you look at the annual average of electricity consumption per capita, world's average is 2,600 kWh. For developed countries, this average is 8,900. For USA is 12,000 almost kilowatt hours, and for Turkey is 2,870. For energy sector, we have legislation that are mostly in parallel with EU directives. Recent ones after 2007, we harmonized our energy sector legislation. If you look at what we have for the legislative structure, for electricity market law, we have law for electricity market, natural gas market law, petroleum market law, liquefied petroleum gases market law, law on usage of renewable energy sources, electricity energy production, energy efficiency law. This has been prepared in parallel with EU relevant legislation. After this, we had regulation on increasing energy efficiency. We have technical review of wind farms license regulation, law on establishment and operation of nuclear power plants and energy sale, energy performance in the buildings regulation, energy efficiency in transportation regulation, and assignment of energy managers for public schools regulation. And if you look at the installed power capacities in Turkey, we have for natural gas 32% of the total energy installed power plants. For hydro we have 32, again for lignite thermal plants we have 17, for import coal we have 7, for LPG and wind the percentages are the same as 3, and for the rest is 6%. And if you come to the Turkey's 2023 energy targets, priority will be given to usage of local resources for electricity energy production. And in the recently issued regulation, this is emphasized when we produce our power plants locally, then the subsidies rates are increasing. So local resource usage is encouraged by the government. Until 2023, all known lignite and coal sources will be managed. By usage of local and renewable energy sources, natural gas portion in electricity production will be reduced under 30%. And for the nuclear, we have a target, and for this on May 2000, we had an agreement with Russia Federation for installation of a power plant in Mersin Akkuyu, and the other target for wind power is renewables, is usage of wind power will be increased up to 20,000 megawatt until 2023. For geothermal power will be used with its full capacity, that is now assessed capacity for our potential is 600 megawatt, that is usable, let's say. Values and mitigations in the national, if you look at the values and mitigations in the national report, we have a reference scenario for 2020, which is 604 million tons carbon dioxide emission. And for the solar energy will be encouraged and disseminated as much as possible. Cleaner coal technologies will be used. Carbon capture and storage, especially gasification technology, will be used. And 32% of coal reserves, which is 297 trillion tons of world, is at Asia Pacific countries, and 28% is at North America, 24% is at Russia and BRIC countries. Lignite, having low heating value, high ash and water content, is used mostly at thermal power plants as fuel. But due to its volume in the earth, it's very commonly used fuel type. Turkey has medium level of lignite reserve and production amount in the world. It's around 1.6%, and total reserve is 12.4 million ton, and operable capacity is 3.9 million tons. According to our energy strategy document, up to 2023, all known, as I said, lignite and coal sources will be used. For the natural gas production between 2002 to 2010, we have a distribution like that, and in 2010, total amount of natural gas production is 726 million meter cube, and this amount means only 2% of natural gas consumption. And hydropower plants are one of the renewable energy resources, as we all know. In Turkey, the hydropower technical usable potential is 140 gigawatt hour per year. In 2009, Turkey has provided 18.5% of its energy from hydropower sources. According to Turkey's 2023 targets, technical and economical viable hydropower potential will be utilized for electricity production. And if you come to the Turkey's wind power potential, we have, according to the Turkey's wind energy potential map, which is prepared in 2007, Turkey has 48,000 megawatt power potential at the regions, having minimum annual average wind speed of 7 meters per second, and 5,000 megawatt energy potential at the regions, having minimum annual average wind speed of 8.5 meters per second. According to 2008 values, Turkey has 8,000 megawatts very efficient and 40,000 megawatt medium level efficient wind power plants. And Marmara, Aegean Sea and Eastern Mediterranean coastal zone are the wind efficient locations in Turkey. Here we can see the development of Turkey's wind power plants by years. And if you come to the Turkey's solar energy potential, due to its geographical position, Turkey has high solar energy potential. Having total annual average solar duration is 2,640 hours. Average radiation rate is 1,311 kilowatt hour per square meter per year. There are two technologies for solar energy, as we know. One is CSP and the other is PV, photovoltaic cells. And for solar energy potential, for these two technologies, we have 380 million kilowatt hour per year potential. In Turkey, total installed solar power collectors are 12 million square meter. Technical solar energy potential is, I think it's wrong. Annual production value is 750,000 square meter. And for annual heat energy production from solar power is 420,000 TP. For small energy demands and research purposes, installed capacity of PV cells has reached to only 1 megawatt. So, due to its being not feasible for the cost, it's not very disseminated usage of such PV energy sources in Turkey. And energy produced in modern geothermal power plants are considered as clean energy due to very low carbon dioxide, NOx and SOx emissions for the geothermal power. Geothermal energy covers all type of utilization practices of geothermal energy directly or indirectly. Low temperature sites are used mainly for heating in industry, chemical substances production. Middle level temperature, which is 70 to 150 degrees Celsius, and high temperature sites more than 150 degrees Celsius are used electricity production and integrated heating systems. In Turkey, 55% of geothermal sites are used for heating of 1,200 acres of greenhouses, 100,000 houses in 15 different locations. And in the world, installed power capacity is 9,700 megawatt, and annual production is 80 kilowatt hour. First 5 top countries using geothermal energy for electricity production are USA, Philippines, Mexico, and Indonesia and Italy. But for the ranking for the first 5 countries for geothermal heating and spring implementation are China, Japan, USA, Iceland, and Turkey. For Turkey, we have technically proven capacity of 435 megawatts, and 34% of this is used. And we have a capacity of 100 megawatt equivalent geothermal power plant is under construction, and research and site surveys are ongoing for 150 and to 200 megawatt equivalent potential. For the biodiesel, as we all know, can produced by oily seed plants like sunflower, soya, canola, and waste vegetable and animal oils. It doesn't include petroleum but can be used as pure or as mixed with diesel fuel. Biogas does not have GHG impact due to the utilization of agricultural plants that has carbon dioxide sink capacity during the photosynthesis process. And in Turkey, biodiesel can be used at the places where it doesn't have very cold weather conditions. Biodiesel can be used in transportation sector as fuel and also as fuel oil at building and industry sectors. Turkey's biodiesel potential just from the animal waste oils is equivalent to 1.5 to 2 million TP. and we have 55 licensed companies for biodiesel production in 2010. And as we look at the composition of the renewable sources for 2011, we have for hydros 45,000 megawatt energy potential, and we have now under construction of 14,600 megawatt, and will be commissioned under commission actually 16,160 megawatt. For wind, we have 48,000 megawatt potential. For solar, we have 300 watt hour per year, and for geothermal, we have SS capacity 600 megawatt potential for, and bioenergy we have 17 million TP potential. Turkey has 73% energy import dependency, and currently we have totally, as we look at the figures of the National Electrical Authority, 15% energy efficiency potential for industry, 35% energy potential for construction, and 15% energy efficiency potential for transportation. And energy demand for the year 2020 may be reduced by 20%, that is equivalent to 45 million TP. This amount is 2.5 times more than annual energy demand of 30 million inhabitants and production of local and renewable energy sources. So, considering this, in 2008, our government initiated a national energy efficiency action to use the energy efficiently in public sector buildings. Also, energy efficiency projects are supported by the government with specific initiative programs. Now we have some regulations recently issued for electrical goods used at the houses. According to the regulations, energy efficient limits has identified for such goods, and sale of goods that are not in compliance with these limits will not allowed for sale. And we have regulation under preparation for electrical motors and acclimation systems, lamps, to regulate the efficiency, and we are waiting for their issuance. Here we see the energy efficiency potential according to the industrial sectors, and for industry, as I thought, it is 25%. For buildings, it's 30%. Industry has energy intensive subsectors in Turkey, so energy cost constitutes 20 to 50% share in the overall costs. Annual energy efficiency potential for industry sector is $3 billion US. That's equivalent to 8 million TP energy, equivalent to 25% of energy consumption in 2007. So, as a conclusion for this, we need to support renewable energy sources. Energy supply assurance and energy variations is very important for us, so we need to use different kinds of energy types for the overall composition. We need to decrease our dependency to energy import because we have 73% of energy import dependency. We need to struggle with climate change, so we need to support renewable energy sources, and these new renewable energy sources will contribute to employment and support to local and regional development. This will also support economical and social development. But more importantly, first we need to implement strict energy efficiency programs to save the resources and to achieve the sustainable energy management. And if you look at shortly our environmental policies, first we need to see the EU environmental policy. As we all know, in the EU environmental policy, we focus on air quality, noise pollution management, water quality, waste management, water management, industrial pollution control and risk management, chemicals and nature's protection, climate change, nuclear safety and protection of radiation. And accordingly, during the harmonization with the EU legislation, as a candidate country, we had an action plan for 2010 to 2013. And accordingly, we are harmonizing our legislation to EU acquis. For this, we have regulation on environmental data. In the action plan, we have regulation on environmental data and information dissemination. This will be prepared in parallel to public access to environmental information EC directive. For the swimming water quality regulation, we will prepare it in parallel with relevant EC directive, and we have such regulations that are prepared and that are ongoing, prepared, or the preparations are ongoing. And as we look at the EU programs that are accessible for Turkey, we have MEDA program for Mediterranean non-member countries. And for this, for instance, we completed a project as a country for the analysis of environmental legislation for Turkey. And we have a LIFE program, which is to support environmental and nature conservation projects. We can develop collaboration with EU countries during this projects in the scope of LIFE program. Also, we have access to FAIR program, which is a program of community aid to the countries of Central and Eastern Europe. For pre-accession assistance, we have IPA projects, which are the technical assistance projects for the projects that are funded by the EU. We have access to IPART, which is for agricultural sector, and for research activities, research and development activities, we have access to 7th framework program. For the commercialization of the already developed and research and R&D processes, already completed projects, we can apply for CIP Eco-Innovation Project calls. And there are also some EU rural development funds that we have access as country. And for the climate change actions in Turkey, what is the Turkey's position for Kyoto Protocol? We have ratified the convention in 2004, and as a part of the convention, Turkey prepared its first national inventory report and submitted to UNFCCC in 2006. And in 2009, we signed the Kyoto Protocol, but we didn't have any liability for the emission limits. As we look at the Turkey prepares its and according since we signed this Kyoto Protocol, Turkey needs to prepare its national inventory report and submit to the United Nations, and national inventory report and CRF tables are prepared by Turkstat and sent to the UNFCCC Secretariat by Turkstat at the focal point of Turkish national emission inventory. As we look at the indicators for Turkey, according to 2008 energy indicators, worst per capita energy consumption value is 1.8 TP, and as we look at the OECD values, this average is 4.7, and Turkey's average is 1.29 TP for this. Among other OECD countries, values of per capita greenhouse gas emissions, cumulative emission and per capita primary energy consumption are the lowest for Turkey. For 2007, GHG value is 5.3 tons carbon dioxide. For the same period, this is 15 ton carbon dioxide equivalent per capita for OECD and 10.2 tons carbon dioxide equivalent for EU member countries. And in 1990, Turkey has had 170 million ton carbon dioxide emissions, and in 2007 this value is 372 million tons carbon dioxide equivalent. We have carbon sink potential of 44 million ton carbon dioxide equivalent in 1990 and 77 million ton carbon dioxide equivalent in 2007. And industrialization, as we compare with OECD countries and other Annex 1 countries, we have a lower industrialization levels. So at that moment, as a country, we do not want to take the liability for reduction of the emissions. And for the Turkey's national vision for climate change, to integrate, our vision is that to integrate the climate change policies with development policies, to disseminate the energy efficiency activities, to increase the consumption of clean and renewable energy, targeting high-level standards with low carbon economy measures. And after 2012, for the long period studies, position of Turkey is to be accepted as developing country and to be able to use flexibility mechanisms to such countries and the mechanisms which are discussed under Kyoto Protocol. And what are our strategies for climate change? For mitigation and adaptation efforts, participation to the comprehensive and operational international collaboration mechanisms, with a dynamic understanding, prepare a national action plan, capacity building of relevant authorities for climate change efforts, prepare necessary infrastructure for a reliable emission inventory, and to develop climate change policies together with all the stakeholders. If for the as I said, we do not have liability for, or we are not in the compliance market, or we have voluntary actions in the according to the Kyoto Protocol. We do not have now any liability against Kyoto Protocol for any emission reductions, but we can develop carbon credit developing projects from renewables, renewable energy or energy efficiency projects. For this, in Turkey we have projects that have developed carbon certificates from the voluntary carbon standards like gold standard. Most commonly used or followed used standard is the gold standard for developing such carbon credit projects, and voluntary carbon standards, verified carbon standards, where VER plus standards are the standards that we are developing carbon projects. Also for the voluntarily, for the social corporate responsibility aim, companies started to measure their carbon footprints, and accordingly the companies started to take measures to mitigate or reduce their carbon footprints, and use these efforts in their marketing strategies. So it became very important to manage carbon emissions, though we do not have any liability to reduce our emissions. And for the national eco-labeling schemes, currently we have Green Star for hotels and Green Airport for the companies operating in the airports. For Green Stars, we have 123 criteria, and the hotels are supposed to follow these criteria, and if they are all cover some percentage of these criteria, they obtain or they are given such eco-label from the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, and such local eco-labeling schemes can also be used in the EU flower eco-labeling programs for receiving scores to achieving the eco-label. For Green Airport scheme, it's very similar with the requirements of the Environmental Management System Standard ISO 14001, and this Civil Aviation Authority gives this certification directly. So the airport companies that are operating in the airports are also interested in this eco-label scheme. And for electronic equipments at houses, we started recently a regulation has been issued, and this will be very important for the manufacturers of electrical equipments for households. Position of the EU flower for Turkey is that since the Ministry of Environment last year has already drafted the eco-label regulation for Turkey, but though EC has assigned one contact point for EU flower delegation in the ministry, EC Commission doesn't allow Turkey to issue this regulation before being the member, full membership to the EU. So when there is any producer who wants to take the EU eco label, then this company or producers go to the European country that that he he wants to sell his products. For instance, if the company can sell its products in France, then our contact point or the company's contact point would be the delegation in the EU Flower in France. So thank you very much for listening, and it will be, this organization is very efficient for me, for us, actually for further collaborations opportunities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Ulku for the presentation, very interesting. We are now a little bit more aware about the data, about energy, environment, and programs in Turkey. We hope to have the opportunity to do something together. And I think we are going to conclude our meeting, because it was very intensive, full of very interesting presentations. I hope that everyone is satisfied. I want to express my grateful expression for myself, especially to Giovanni Montresori, who had made possible to have this meeting and to get together all those persons that are in principle available for future collaboration. I think we are all very happy about what we have exchanged in this meeting, and I make my best wishes to everybody for full success in the future.